Hey, welcome back to Connection Point Studies. We're in the 6th week of the series that leads right up to Easter. We're looking forward to a great Easter. It's going to be a great time. We're getting ready for that. It's really fun. I got to tell you, though, I can't wait till the week before Palm Sunday. We're doing a special week where we do the last week of Christ's life. It's going to be a great message, great series. So, let's do a little warm-up question. We have an interesting warm-up question for them, which means everybody answers it. And so let's warm them up.
Okay, so the question is, what makes you rich?
Okay, now you have to think about this. Be honest here. Some of you I know are going to say, I'm not rich. Okay. No, you have to tell us how you're rich. And when you come back, you're going to watch a video, and then we'll talk about it. Interesting video, Ron.
Yeah.
What's amazing in that whole thing is that you're in the top 25% if you have a roof and a little food and a little bed, right?
Yeah, it's just things that we take for granted. And, when I see that, I realize that my entire life I've never gone without. Not many people can say that.
No. Now, what's interesting is this passage that we're studying today really talks about a very rich man who would have been in the top percent of everything. And it's found in Matthew 19, verses 16 through 30. So we want you to actually read that now and take a minute and answer this question. What did the man ask Jesus? And what does that question tell you about the way he's thinking? So, Ron, what did the man ask Jesus?
He says, what good thing must I do to get? See, I want to get something, and I want to. So you just tell me, this is quid pro quo. Right. Just what do I got to do to get it?
My list. If you give me this list, then I can do it. He's probably a type A person that was very successful, had the ability to go out and set goals, get the goals. So that makes sense that he would ask that question, right?
Sure. I mean, it seems that's the way everything else works, right?
Right. So how did he respond to him? I think that's the question we want you to think about. Look at verses 17 through 19. How did Jesus respond to this man's question? Okay, Jesus' response must have shocked him, huh?
No, actually, it was probably right in line with what he expected. He said, well, you know the commandments, He lists off a few commandments, just go do those. And the guy says, yeah, okay, I've done those.
Which, do you think he was honest at that point?
That's a good question.
Because could you answer that? I mean, even the ones that Jesus listed, it may be on the outside it looks like you followed him, but maybe on the inside?
I guess it depends on how honest you are with yourself.
Right. So this guy says, hey, I followed those right to the end. So here's what we want you to think about. Does this man's reaction, like verse 20, reveal anything about Jesus' reason for responding the way that he did? And then we'll talk about that. Okay, so this verse 20 here, what does this reveal about Jesus' response?
Well, so after Jesus says, keep the commands, and he says, okay, I've done that, you would think, well, why doesn't he just walk away? Like, end of story, that's it. But he says, yeah, but I still lack something.
Do you think he just knew in his heart?
Yeah.
He must have known. I guess we all know in our heart when we're kind of playing a game.
Yeah,
maybe.
so, and Jesus could have argued with him. Jesus could have said, like, when his first question, he could have said, oh, it's not what you do, you just have to believe, and, that he didn't do any of that. I think Jesus wanted to allow him to realize moment, I lack something.
He had to discover it himself.
Yeah.
I think he does that in my life all the time. He does that in your life as well.
Yeah.
So what was the choice that Jesus asked him to make? And think closely, it's verse 21. What was the choice he was asked to make? Of course, the choice, that was the shocking part.
Yeah.
Right?
Indeed.
Sell everything, give it to the poor.
But you know what? I think so many times we focus on that as the choice. But I noticed what Jesus said to him. He said, if you want to be perfect. Now, the Greek word there is
teleos?
Is teleos, yeah. And it's like complete or mature. It's like
maturity, really.
Yeah. So he's saying, all right, you asked a question which said, I want this, and I'm going to tell you what it takes to get there. So the choice is, how much do you really want that?
And this guy had a pretty tough choice laid out there. In fact, really, we have to look at that in our own lives, right? How would we respond to that? If God said to follow him meant to give up everything you have, that's quite a choice. It really is. So what did Jesus say about this man's choice to walk away, which is what this man did? Verses 25 and 26. Think about that. Okay, this was a shock to the disciples, right?
Yeah.
Terrible shock. And so his response, I know he's looking at the disciples who have their mouth open.
Yeah. And they're thinking, well, who can be saved then? If this is what it takes. Did you just set so high a bar that none of us are ever going to get there?
It's kind of amazing. And to put it in context a little bit, the Jewish people believed that the wealth of a person was an evidence of the blessing of God.
Yeah.
And here's Jesus saying, give away your evidence of the blessing of God
Yeah.
to follow me.
And
he
Jesus
walked
says,
away.
yeah, and Jesus says, it's hard. Now, sometimes we focus on that, okay, it's possible, but it is hard. I think that these things can be a distraction.
And let's be honest, it's hard, not impossible, but it's probably the hardest thing that all of us face in our life. It's what do we do with our wealth? And I don't think that God asked any less of us than he did of the rich young ruler. Ultimately, there comes a day and a time when I give him my whole life. I want you to think about that choice. This is a good time for you to share. Maybe for you to talk about what you've given God and how you've let go of that. And have you really come to that place? And it's okay if you're in a group and you're not there. And it's great for you to be honest. The group's going to be accepting of you as to wherever you are in that process of choosing. And what would you do and what would that be like? It's a good time for you to share together and to take a little bit of time to pray together. And we will see you next week at Connection Point Studies.